Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge is a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services with a primary marketing focus on the Port of Anchorage, providing their customers with quality-based service specifically tailored to their needs.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the chart here, we've got snow advisories continuing here for this portion of the southeast panhandle areas. Still got the cold north winds blowing through Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay on down into Stevens Passage, keeping temperatures low enough there to keep the precipitation in the form of snow in Juneau, and of course back up towards Skagway there in the Klondike Highway where it's in the mid-20s. Definitely in the form of snow there. Then it begins to mix with rain a little bit down toward Petersburg, and then you're into the 40s and just rain on down to the south. So you could pick up 2 to 3 or maybe 4 more inches of snow tonight, especially over the northern areas. It's mostly north of Juneau. We'll see those kind of amounts, and less to the south. And the winter weather advisory here still out for the Koyukuk Valley on in across the Yukon Flats and those areas. We'll see the higher elevations here for those winds continuing, gusting 35 miles an hour. That'll result in blowing snow. Of course, visibility is under half a mile at times out through tonight and probably most of tomorrow. Areas like Indian Mountain seeing gusts upwards of 30 to 35 miles an hour. And so this whole area under that condition there. And then down here over Bristol Bay, that's a winter storm watch for areas northwest of King Salmon for tomorrow afternoon, or I should say beginning as early as tomorrow afternoon, and then more likely tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. That all due to a big storm coming up toward Kodiak Island. On yesterday's satellite imagery, we saw area moisture here spreading northward with some areas of light snow, especially out here in the southwest and along the North Gulf Coast. And we had another mass of clouds here spreading more rain and eventually wind into the panhandle. The main front back through here in the low center, still quite a ways off the coast yesterday at this time. System up there off the northwest coast, pulling back to the west toward Wrangell Island, a breakout here over the Bering Sea. And then this front pushing eastward, bringing some rain into the eastern Aleutians, eventually on into the Alaska Peninsula overnight. Another front behind that one. And we'll see today, that one moved up to the Aleutians, but really weakened here. You can see just breaking up with each frame as it moves on there. The main low center hanging back toward Shemya. Looks like another one here moving up just southwest in Nikolsky. The original front right through here, quite weak now. Did bring some rain today, as well as the milder temperatures into the Pribilofs as that whole thing lifted northward last evening. But they only picked up about 0.07 of an inch there at St. Paul, as opposed to Cold Bay getting about, or actually Unalaska picking up about 1/3 of an inch of rain, mostly from this system. This one now probably spreading some rain into the area. We still have a lot of leftover clouds here over Bristol Bay, back up toward Norton Sound with some areas of flurries or light snow in that area. Pretty dry up here over Kotzebue Sound, just a few clouds left, and then some patchy fog along the Arctic coast. Not a bad day up there. The winds easterly 15 to 30 miles an hour, but occasionally going IFR due to the patchy fog that occurs up there at times throughout the day, and then some areas of breezy conditions, mostly the higher elevations, mountain passes here over the interior. And temperatures this afternoon still below zero, quite a few of the areas there. And clearing out here over south central Alaska, this area of moisture coming north with the front brought some gale force winds into the North Gulf Coast early this morning, or actually late last night. And then you can see the system there trying slowly to push eastward. So the rain changing over to some more showery conditions here, and the winds have gone already earlier today went southwest at about 15 to 25 miles an hour after those gale force southeasterlies ahead of the front moved through. But again, clearing out back here along the south central Alaska areas, Cook Inlet up into the Susitna Valley. But a little bit of light snow began at Valdez this afternoon, and it looked like a little more extensive area up here over the Wrangell Mountains, possibly McGrath or McCarthy, Kennecott, and those areas. Rain, Yakutat changed over to snow a couple of hours ago, still snowing across the northern panhandle there and into the Juneau area. Position of the front this morning, right along the coast or just inland there, and a good gradient here. Higher pressure, colder air still pouring into the northern parts of the panhandle, but a good shot of rain as this front pushed through, and that again picking up over an inch of rain in the 24-hour period ending at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And then this leftover moisture here still producing a few areas of light snow or flurries here from Bristol Bay on up to the Seward Peninsula, but pretty hit and miss. And then this weak system bringing the rain and fog and the patchy fog up there over along the Arctic coast. On the forecast for tonight, you can see the next storm now coming onto the chart here. This about 2, 3 in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. It'll be in about this position here. So still look for a chance of rain reaching southern Kodiak Island toward morning. Still a few flurries out here to the west. This front in the low pressure area bringing maybe some rain and snow or snow back to the Pribilofs, although probably starting out as rain, but amounts will be light. A few flurries here possible along the Alaska range, light snow continuing, holding on much of the evening and in past midnight here over the eastern interior. Again, back up toward Northway where it snowed all day today. Light snow with IFR conditions there. Still a chance of snow north of the Arctic front there over the Panhandle where the winter weather advisories are. And more of a scattered shower condition down to the south, but notice all the moisture streaming northeastward here on the Panhandle. So you're going to begin to see some of that showing up here along the coast late tomorrow afternoon. This Arctic boundary still in place, but now beginning to edge its way northward in response to the increasing southeast flow coming into the Gulf of Alaska. So it looks like gale force winds developing here for the North Gulf Coast marine zones. Gale force winds, possibly storm force winds here in advance of this front as that tight low pressure area moves up just southwest of Kolsky into about this position here tomorrow afternoon. So that's going to kick the winds up there across Bristol Bay, pull the warm air in. So the winter storm warning again is west of King Salmon, possibly including Dillingham, Togiak on out to Cape Newenham. Winds increasing here over the southwest interior, as well as some overrunning snow developing. So it could be some blowing snow conditions there as well, but should be mostly a VFR day along the coast there. Snow continuing around the Pribilofs at times in the Bering Sea. Snow showers, colder temperatures spreading into the Aleutians. And mostly fair, really no change here over the interior with the gusty winds in areas continuing. And then looking at Wednesday, that low slowly moving northward and weakening both tomorrow night and into Wednesday. Parked near Iliamna here Wednesday afternoon, the low center roughly. So that's going to bring a good shot of moisture into the North Gulf Coast areas and also the upslope areas of south central Alaska in the form of probably rain right along the immediate coastline, which includes Seward, and then a mixture of rain or snow elsewhere here with probably some snow up there along the Susitna Valley. Another band of light stuff here back to the west and then angling up along the coast there with that trough. And the front gradually edging its way eastward will probably bring a pretty good shot of rain due to its slow movement in across the southeast coast again, with a chance of some mixed stuff here up over the northern areas. With that one low center now pulling inland there, should spread some warmer air into the area even up towards Skagway during the late afternoon. And then another pretty potent system here moving into the Aleutians with possible gale force winds in advance of that front as it spreads more moisture and rain, fog, and of course IFR conditions back into the eastern Aleutians, pushing up but not quite reaching the Pribilofs during the afternoon hours, maybe into the evening. Some of that will get up there, and then gusty northwest winds, gale force northwesterlies possible here mostly along and south of the west central Aleutians. And looking at temperatures today, the warm spots again down over the southern part of the southeast coast, both Annette and Klawock, or actually Heidelberg, 45 degrees. And cooling as you go to the north is a 43 both at Wrangell and Sitka, 25 up at Skagway with snow, 32 and snow at Juneau. Same thing going on at Yakutat, but light rain in Cordova, 32 degrees. They had some freezing rain earlier today and some flurries in Valdez with 18. Seward up to 33, 19 in Anchorage with mostly clear skies, 29 down at Homer, Fair and 11 at Talkeetna, 15 below at the park entrance, about the same in Fairbanks, -3. At Northway with light snow, but Delta Junction 7 above, and those east winds continuing to gust to 40 miles an hour this afternoon throughout much of the day. -27 at Eagle, the cold spot, 0 at Anatuvik, otherwise below 0 over the north slope in the Arctic coast. Lower teens here over the northwest, and 20 at Nome. The Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas mostly in the teens to lower 20s out along the coast, and then over the Kuskokwim Valley, McGrath at -14 and some fog, 7 above, sleet mute, and then into the 30s here, lower 30s, some cases even above freezing there. King Salmon pushed up to 33. That was at 4 o'clock. All of these are 4 p.m. temperatures. Lower 40s over the peninsula, near 40 out over the Aleutians, except in the colder air out towards Shimia. And for the lows tonight, below 0, already there just about here over the Copper River Basin and much of the interior. Some of these purplish areas dropping into the mid-30s. Otherwise, 25 to 30 over Bristol Bay, staying above freezing, say from about Port Hayden on down the peninsula, all the way out into the Aleutians, and mid-20s to mid to upper 30s, or in some cases even lower 40s for the lows for the Panhandle. And for the highs tomorrow, 40 to 45 or so over the southern southeast coast. Still cool here in the north, and 20s south central Alaska, but some areas like Cordova, Seward rising into the mid-30s, near 40 for Kodiak. Chillier up here over the interior with highs anywhere from 20 below to a little bit above 0. And for the flying weather, VFR here for the most part, much of the interior, and then watching throughout the day things deteriorate and conditions coming down to possible IFR along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska range there. Much of Cook Inlet and staying VFR tomorrow, but conditions possibly lowering there up the western side of Prince William Sound. And then some IFR down along the Alaska Peninsula. Of course, Kodiak Island going into that late tonight and definitely by morning into the IFR. And then this whole area gradually working northeastward throughout the day with marginal VFR right along the coastline and into portions of the Panhandle. And then marginal VFR to IFR, not as bad as it could be out over the western Aleutians. And for flying, or for passes, Anatuvik wide open, as well as Adigan, both looking really good on both entrances tomorrow. Lake Clark and Merrill starting out VFR, and then watch for the conditions to possibly lower to marginal here, and that'll show up first on the eastern entrances of both passes. Actually, all 3 passes, rainy, the same forecast. Windy though, that you'll stay VFR. This pass will stay VFR the entire day into the evening. And for Isabel, marginal VFR to start with for some leftover moisture early on, and then becoming VFR, and then possibly going something lower than that, but that won't move in until tomorrow night. And for Mentasta, same forecast, starting out marginal with improvement throughout the late morning. Tanita, VFR possibly becoming marginal, especially into the afternoon toward evening. And for Portage, just go marginal VFR with IFR, especially here on the east side. That's where it'd show up first. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels pushing the surface now, or we've pushed the surface. The southerly winds have pushed the surface here up to near St. Matthew Island. This early tomorrow morning, down through northern Bristol Bay, then up along the coast and still south of, we're just about going right over the Elfin Cove Juneau area with much milder conditions down to the south. And you can see a pretty good push of warm air with that storm center coming northward, 4,000 feet, at least up to Kodiak Island. And with that will be some icing threats increasing as well with the moisture. Look for occasional moderate rime icing below 15,000 feet, light or isolated moderate rime below 15,000 feet here back down along the peninsula. Pretty icing free over the remainder of the interior, and just a risk of some stuff there over the southern southeast coast. Winds aloft showing high pressure right up along the Gulf of Alaska, south to north flow, 140 knot wind jet max here associated with that storm coming northward They're just southwest of Kodiak Island by this time tomorrow. High pressure, though, making for about the same kind of weather you had today for tomorrow here over the interior, the main Pacific jet well to the south and south of the Aleutians. 9,000-foot winds, 60-knot east-southeasterlies coming into Kodiak late tonight and throughout the day tomorrow. And these pretty strong winds also coming northward here. Light winds in advance of the system farther into the interior. And then those easterlies 25 knots, as high as 50 knots on the eastern Arctic coast. Westerlies 30 to 45 knots out over the Aleutians, but lighter over much of the Bering Sea. And then at 3,000 feet, we've got some easterlies at roughly 25 knots, St. Lawrence Island, right up through the strait. And then as high as 55 knots just off the coast there of the east side. And then 25 to 30 knot winds continuing here, helping support those winter weather advisories. And then the strong winds coming into Kodiak Island, first out of the east and then southeast, and gradually increasing here on toward the Panhandle. Turbulence-wise, some severe possibly showing up here for Kodiak Island tomorrow toward noon, and then also along the eastern Arctic coast where the two windiest places will be, and some moderate chop on the northern Seward Peninsula. And after the break of Hangar Flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling. On behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome back to Hangar Flying. This is our third session with Dr. Petra Illig, Senior Aviation Medical Examiner, and she's talked about some very interesting subjects, starting out with the role of the AME, why do we have flight physicals. Last time she spoke about some of the grounding conditions and how to get ungrounded. And tonight we're going to talk about the positive side of this and some of the things that you as pilots can do to stay healthy and hopefully avoid some of these conditions. Peter, welcome back.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the positive. What can pilots do to stay healthy and fit for flying?
Well, the human body is in many respects a machine just like the airplane, and it requires certain treatments, certain specifications. And I think if people, follow the general rules of good health, which is to eat properly, exercise regularly, get rest to your best ability, and then also follow what I call the human maintenance checklist, depending on your family history, personal history, age, and gender, then, pretty much you can stay on track. I always explain to pilots that if they take care of themselves in a systematic sort of way, then their medical certificate will almost always follow.
Okay, well let's talk about the negative side. What are some of the bad choices that pilots make and maybe should be some of the bad choices, like being overweight?
Well, it's not just pilots.
Yeah.
It's a big struggle in today's lives where, we don't physically work as hard as we, maybe we're designed to. We sit around a lot, we sit at computers a lot, but certainly, eating on the run, skipping breakfast is bad, overeating at night to make up for your growling stomach, and then not getting that regular exercise. And then, of course, getting regular sleep, which is really hard in this society. If you're a parent, many pilots are parents, their kids are supposed to be in school already by 7 a.m. I mean, that's not reasonable. Humans weren't built that way. And I think also in the world of pilots, and what they like to avoid having to do with their health is they have a tendency to want to avoid getting their regular non-FAA medical exams. A lot of times they don't want a problem uncovered because they think that it'll significantly impact or negatively impact their medical certification. And I say to these pilots, do you fly with your instrument panel covered up too? As long as the propeller's going round and around, everything's okay.
So one of the topics that has come up recently, our viewers may not know about, or some of them, is the subject of BMI. Can you talk about that?
Yes, body mass index is is a reference number that takes into consideration your height and your weight and creates a number that is basically pegs you into a normal weight, an overweight, or an obesity category. Unfortunately, those numbers that you calculate are not terribly accurate because people come in different densities in their core. Some people are big boned and heavy muscled, and some people are thinner boned. And so those guides, those graphs, are not terribly accurate. You can be more accurate if you do a water displacement test, a dunk tank test, for example, or even more accuracy with certain kinds of CAT scans. But in general, body mass index is just basically a guide to say how much fat do you have on your body, that excess fat that doesn't belong there. And it has a lot of relationships with certain things like sleep apnea. Which
now, I'm a little unclear. Has the rule been passed where if you have a BMI over 40?
No, it's still up for debate. I think it's quite reasonable. We already have rules for blood pressure numbers. We have rules for blood sugars. And we know that those particular numbers have a high association with certain kinds of severe medical conditions. And I think we are getting a greater understanding that a high BMI not only has a significant negative impact on your health by increasing your risk of heart disease, cerebral vascular disease, strokes, diabetes, cancers, but it also increases your risk for sleep apnea. And sleep apnea basically is a condition where you quit breathing several times throughout the night, sometimes so frequently that you really don't get much sleep. And that increases your risk for heart attack or stroke. So it's not just being drowsy and not at your peak performance during the day, but it also increases your risk dramatically for having terrible medical outcomes.
Wow. Petra, thank you for being on the show tonight. Thank you for the all three sessions. It's been very educational, and I appreciate your dedication to aviation safety.
Thanks a lot. It's been fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. I'd like to remind you that the Safety Foundation is in fact sponsored by you. It's member sponsored, member supported, and starting the first of the year, you can go pick, click, and give and donate part of your PFD for our organization so that we can bring programs like this to you. And have a happy new year, and until next time, fly safe.
Welcome back. Southeast winds 20 to 25 knots here along the coast, probably lighter down to the south and lighter yet over the inside waters, east or southeast 15 knots, and then trying to swing around to the southeast or at least get some southerly component to it there for the Lynn Canal Glacier Bay and the northern areas there, maybe up to 20 knots. And then for Wednesday, southeast 15 to 20 for the north coast, and then ahead of that front, again slowly edging its way eastward here, maybe some minimum gales down along the south coast, otherwise small craft advisories there for the south central coast. Still light here over the inside waters, although this should probably be more like 25 knots instead of the 15 I left on there, and about this, of course, will be lighter here through the central areas, southeast about 20 for the northern zone. And up along the North Gulf Coast, gale developing and possible storm force winds here farther to the west. Gale force winds at least 45 knots, maybe a brief period of storm force winds coming into the Kodiak Island area. Northeast 45 Shelikof Strait. Gales even for southern Cook Inlet possible. Small craft advisories with higher gusts for Prince William Sound. And then the outlook for Wednesday, a little more are becoming variable here if that low center tracks up into Kamishak Bay or southern Cook Inlet. So north of there, 15 to 20 knots out of the northeast. Prince William Sound easterlies 25, higher gusts, gales here for the North Gulf Coast. Generally all in a downward trend though, but small craft advisories for the western Gulf Coast down across the Barrens, and then with a low center lifting northward, some pretty brisk southwesterlies will be sweeping across Kodiak Island in the 25 to 30 knot range. For Bristol Bay, northeast 30, northwest 25, so small craft advisories for all of these zones tomorrow. And for Wednesday, westerlies at 25 for Bristol Bay down across the peninsula, and a little stronger actually, possibly starting out with gale force westerlies here southwest of Kodiak. And then out in the Aleutians, southwest 25 knots here for those eastern zones, and west 20 knots way out there to the west, and northwest 25 for the Adak area to Nikolsky or to Amchitka. Northwest 30 knots, so small craft advisories here for the western Aleutians, except changing directions here toward Adak, and then some gales across Atka Island, extending in toward Nikolsky, but kind of a break as a high pressure ridge swings through the eastern Aleutians. Winds dropping off to about 20 knots there for Unalaska and Dutch Harbor. And for the Pribilof, southeast 15, northeasterlies 20 to 25 knots from Cape Neuenham all the way up across St. Lawrence Island, and including the northern Bering Sea. And then for Wednesday, southwest on the light side for the Pribilofs, light east winds here for the northern Bering Sea, and 5 to 15 knot northwesterlies here along the coast, holding at about 20 knots up around St. Lawrence Island. Arctic coast, strongest winds will continue on the east side here up to 30 knots over toward Kaktovik, otherwise down to 20 knots for the central coast. Light northeast at about 15 here for the entire west side, and all those zones look about the same on Wednesday, except maybe up to around 20 knots here for the western Capes, and still looking at small craft advisories from the central coast here all the way to the east, and possibly even gale force winds there, Kaktovik area. For tonight, again, remaining dry through much of these areas here. Still some lingering snow continuing through much of the night over the southeast interior. Some of that slipping up north of the mountains from Northway on up to maybe Eagle, but cutting off right around Fairbanks or just to the east, or say maybe over toward Delta Junction. Some flurries through here. Here's the next storm coming northward and bringing the wind and rain into Kodiak, and the winter storm watch for Bristol Bay west of King Salmon, and wet and windy up along the North Gulf Coast, and then things improve on Wednesday. Well, let's look at the weather. Thanks so much for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.